Hello and welcome to Views on News. I am Jawad Tehami. Pakistan's military's media wing, Inter-Services Public Relations, says, let me quote, 19 terrorists were killed by security forces in 3 different areas of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa during the intense exchange of fire. 3 brave sons of soil, having fought gallantly, paid the ultimate sacrifice and embraced shahadat, unquote. We also know for a fact that on the night between December 25th and 26th, security forces had sent 13 Khawarij to hell in 3 separate engagements in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, while a brave son of soil got martyred during the intense exchange of fire. Now, since the Kabul takeover by the Afghan Taliban, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province in Pakistan has particularly witnessed the resurgence of terrorism. Some estimates suggest there has been 279.8% increase in number of terrorist incidents, 572 back in 2021 to 2,173 in 2024. Earlier we saw Director General, Inter-Services Public Relations, Lieutenant General Ahmed Sharif Chaudhry in a very important precedent told, let me quote him, over 59,000 intelligence-based operations were conducted across Pakistan in 2024, unquote. Also, another major issue, the funding on the part of the United States of America and the European Union to the Afghan Taliban has come to the fore. There is Transatlantic Intelligence Consortium that has come up with a report talking about how this particular money is being funneled towards the Taliban. Also, there is a Twitter message by the South African journalist. Let me quote that. Imagine giving these terrorists $40 million of your tax money every week. Sound crazy because it is pure insanity, unquote. So this South African journalist is Lara Logan responding to this particular Twitter message. Elon Musk has also raised a question. We'll also be taking the analysis regarding that during our course of discussion in today's show. Also, Tim Butcher, a member of the US Congress, wrote a letter to President-elect Donald Trump saying, I write to express my strong concerns with foreign aid being funneled to the Taliban. The United States of America should not fund its enemies abroad, unquote. There are a number of other very important points which have been highlighted in this particular letter by Tim Butcher to President-elect Donald Trump. We are going to take all these matters up for discussion in today's show. For that, we are honored to be joined in the studio by Mr. Air Marshal, retired Saeed Mohammed Khan, senior analyst. Air Marshal Khan, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Also in the studio, we are honored to be joined by Mr. Agha Iqrar Haroon, senior analyst. Mr. Haroon, thank you very much for your time also, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. On Skype at the same time, we are honored to be joined by Mr. Syed Akhtar Shah, former Inspector General Police, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Mr. Shah, thank you very much for your time also, for being with us on Views tonight. We really appreciate that. Let's begin the discussion. There are 2 fronts now. Let's specifically talk about the fight, the security forces, the law enforcement agencies, Air Marshal Khan, both of them are fighting against this particular menace. We know for a fact Pakistan has been the only country in the world that broke the backbone of terrorism earlier. Since the Kabul takeover by the Taliban, we have seen the resurgence. Every now and then, yes, we are fighting valiantly. The IBOs are being conducted every now and then to eliminate the Khawarij, which are using, of course, the Afghan soil to perpetrate heinous acts of terror here in Pakistan. Specifically talking about the sacrifices of the armed forces, the brave sons of soil, which they are rendering. What are your sentiments regarding that?
Any Pakistani would be proud on their sacrifices. We have a wonderful army, we have a wonderful air force, and Pakistan in itself is a very, very strong country. We are the only nuclear Muslim country in the world, so we should be very proud of our achievements in this field. The way the Pakistani intelligence agencies, as well as those who are dealing with Afghanistan, have conducted the talks with them, I think they have been very patient and they have been actually very nice to the Afghan government. They were since August 2021. There had been a lot of insurgencies in the KPK area, especially Bannu and the area around Mir Ali and other areas. But yet we always complained to the Afghan government to take care of the TTP, which was the main reason for all these activities in Pakistan. It is when the Afghan government showed their inability to control the TTP that Pakistan decided to take control of themselves. And now I think we have again shown, after 2019, we have again shown to the world that we are capable enough of hitting our targets of interest beyond our border without crossing the international border. So our Air Force and our Army, we engage the targets in the Khost and Paktika area without crossing the international border, which shows a great capability of the Pakistani Defense Forces. It is so very unfortunate that our officers and our men are getting killed every other day. No country can allow that. And the way our forces have retaliated now, in my personal opinion, we should have done it a long time ago. And I think this is the right strategy, that we must talk to the Afghan government. You know, diplomacy is the first way of interacting between countries, and we must continue to talk to them. But they should also be very clear that our patience and our, we can only, take an X number of casualties on our side. If the number of casualties or their interference into our areas increases beyond a certain limit, it will not be acceptable.
Right, Mr. Haroon, there has been a considerable increase in these heinous terrorist attacks being perpetrated from across the border, from Afghanistan, which is being used as a safe haven, particularly the red line for Pakistan, the banned Taliban Pakistan, the Fitna al-Khawarij. How long do you think Pakistan is going to show patience?
Pakistan should not. As she already, honorable friend mentioned, we should have been responded swiftly and strongly. But the problem was, Pakistan did understand that this Khawarijis, which is TTP, they had been part and parcel of Afghan Taliban when they were fighting against, so-called ISAF regime, actions. So we knew, we knew all TTP leadership was living somehow as in Kunnad in Nuristan, and we had all information. So we should have not a high, expectation from them, because they were their foot soldiers, and it was understood when they get power in Kabul, definitely they will immediately release them from jails and send to Pakistan, and they did it. So what is going on in Pakistan, it was very clear to us. But the problem is this: we were fighting and we won the war against TTP. Yeah. This was very unfortunate that a particular party or a government invited them, resettled them in Pakistan. The then Prime Minister used to say they are 5,000 or 6,000 with families. So when you invited terrorists back to your country and resettled them and provided them financial support also, and they were coming with NATO-grade weapons. So what is going on today is, it was written on the wall. The problem is this, as you asked me, what should be done by the Afghan government? I am very clear. Afghan government knows there is a tremendous pressure on them, but they won't help you. I take the responsibility. They would keep staying with Kharijis, and whenever you will ask them, they will deny it.
Staying with Kharijis, in that sort of a scenario, a continuous pattern of denial on the part of the Afghan Taliban, Pakistan had been going towards them, with irrefutable evidence that the Afghan nationals, those miscreants, the militants of Band Taliban Pakistan, the Fitna al-Khawarij, were directly involved in perpetrating the heinous acts of terrorism. Here, the pattern of the denial continuously expressed on the part of the officials, the de facto authorities, that this particular scenario is going to continue. What are the Pakistani authorities at the same time have been saying that we want to engage diplomatically on all the fronts to resolve all the outstanding issues of the de facto authorities in Afghanistan. In that sort of a scenario, what options remain on the table for us to address this particular issue?
Tehami, there is no issue to be resolved. What is the issue? There is no issue at all between Pakistan and Afghanistan.
This particular issue, how this menace of terrorism must be addressed, because this particular continuous denial is going to be there on the part of the Afghan Taliban, because as you already said, that they've been the part and parcel of that particular whole regime.
Tehami, you know, I had been covering Afghan war while living in Afghanistan since 1995 to 1997, then again 2003 to 2005. I can give you a guarantee. They don't listen anybody when they have planned something. And they use terrorism as a leverage or as a weapon for negotiation. So you have
What do
to
they want? What do they want?
Can I intervene?
Marshal Khan, I'll come back to you. Let Mr. Haroon please complete his thought.
They want to give amnesty to Kharjis and let them live under their own laws to some certain areas which were in FATA, and they are not a settled area. They first of all they want you should reverse this decision of the expansion of the provincial boundaries to the FATA area and the PATA area. Can you do it? And they want a space, an official space for them at Pakistan-Afghan border, where they can live and they can install their own law and Pakistan should accept it. Is it possible for Pakistan?
A very important point that you made. I just want you to go into a little bit of detail of that in your next take. Marshal Khan, if you allow me, let me bring in the third participant into the discussion. Also, Mr. Syed Shah, former Inspector General Police of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Mr. Shah, earlier we saw a very important press on part of DGI SPR. Telling that 59,775 operations were conducted across Pakistan. In 2024, 925 terrorists were killed as a result of those. And also 73 high-value targets, including some of the most wanted terrorists, were also eliminated. We saw during this particular phase of resurgence of terrorism since the Kabul takeover by the Taliban back in 2021, most recently Pakistani authorities came up with that resolve to stability operation Azm-e-Istehkam, a combination of intelligence-based operations. We know the intelligence-based operations are being conducted with full vigilance on the basis of multiple intelligence reports. How do you think this particular resolve to stability has fared so far? In light of these stats by the DGI?
I would appreciate and acknowledge the sustained efforts of Pakistan's security forces in restoring peace and security within the territories of Pakistan. And having said this, I would also say that preservation of sovereignty is one of the most fundamental responsibility of any state. And ultimately, this function is being carried out by the armed forces whenever there is a threat to the sovereignty. So, to my mind, so far, whatever semblance of security which we observe here is because of the valiant sacrifices and courage of conviction of the soldier deployed for this task. I have personal experiences while I was in the field as DIG Malakand in 2007 and 8, and then DIG Mardan in 2008 and 10. When we actually carried out operations against such elements who were threatening peace over there, and they had established at that time parallel governments. And it was only with the efforts and operations carried out by the Pakistan Army in Swat, where the government had been able to bring back normalcy to those areas. So I would say that when we compare our present with that period, I am very categorical to state that there is a comparative relative peace as far as those era is concerned. So it's quite satisfactory. I hope that with sustained efforts, we would further make progress and restore peace in those areas.
Right, Mr. Shah. Now, during this particular resurgence of terrorism, where do you identify those particular key areas or the hot spots where those militants or the terrorists of Fitna al-Khawarij are based across the border? Which provinces, which hotspots do you identify?
Yes, given the statistics as far as our own Khyber Pakhtunkhwa is concerned, so most of rather the 80% are above the acts of terrors have been reported in the southern belt of the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And of those district, DI Khan tops the list. So, and then the Tira Valley, which is within Khyber, it has witnessed a lot of acts of terror. And at the same time, across border, the areas in Bakhtia, then Nupanar and Nuristan. Those are the areas where the nucleus of the TTP is present. And at the same time, there is another element that is Islamic State of Khorasan. And if we go by the reports, independent think tanks like United States of Peace, Institute of Peace, according to that think tank, Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State of Khorasan, Daesh, they are again reorganizing, rather they are growing at a very fast speed. And besides this, 20 other militant organizations are also have been reported. So that think tank has also cautioned United States of America that due to their strategic competition within the Asia Pacific, this region has been neglected. So they have advised the State Department to also focus on that area.
Okay, I'll come to this particular point later in the second half of the show. When you talk of the most affected area of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa happens to be the southern part. So do I understand it is because of the proximity to those particular provinces where there are hotspots of these militant and terrorist organizations in Afghanistan?
Yes, of course. You, for instance, take the Quorum Agency, where we have recently witnessed, though it is has a sectarian tinge, but this area has remained disturbed because of the incursion of the militants from that area. So, Quorum also borders the province of Nangarhar, Khost, and Bakhtiar. So they are, and recently our airstrikes also targeted their safe heights in the province of Khost and Bakhtiar. So these are the areas which are being used as a bed of the rather epicenters of terrorism against Pakistan.
You earlier talked about the United States of America. Mr. Shah, as you have to leave earlier, I'll bring up the last question for you. Now, this Transatlantic Intelligence Consortium has released a report that is titled as How the US, EU, and the UN are funding the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. Now, it says that $40 million every week arrive to Kabul by plane from the US, EU to fund the Taliban. Also, there is a letter that has been written by the member of the Congress, Mr. Tim Burchett, Let me quote one important excerpt from that. The larger issue which Secretary Blinken failed to acknowledge is the shipments of cash payments in the United States dollars to Afghanistan's central bank. These cash shipments are auctioned off, and after that, they are nearly impossible to track. This is how the Taliban is being funded and plans to fund terrorism around the world. In the last paragraph of this particular letter to the President-elect Donald Trump, Mr. Tim Burchett says that the United States of America should not fund its enemies abroad. Your understanding regarding this revelation and also being talked about by the member of the Congress writing to the incoming president, that how the Afghan Taliban are being financially supported by the US.
Of course, this is a matter of concern, and the logic, I would say, why United States of America, when it was threatened by the Al-Qaeda, they came here along with NATO. Why? Because they thought and they perceived, rather they were determined and they were that they have based on their intelligence that the Afghan soil was being used against their social order, their national interest. Therefore, initially they warned the Taliban and demanded to hand over the leaders of Al-Qaeda at that time. But the same, you see, arguments as today the Taliban are extended in favor of the TTP operating from there, that they were their guests and they were their host, and under the Pakhtun code of ethics, they would not hand them over to United States. Therefore, the United States, in order to protect their own interests, were there with boots on ground. So the similar logic also is valid for Pakistan at the same time. So the United States, which has signed Doha agreement with the Taliban, so the United States is also not only a moral obligation, but also under a legal obligation to use all means where the Taliban can be pressurized and deterred not to use that their soil is not being used against Pakistan or any other country. So certainly it's a matter of concern, and it's very important.
It's a matter of concern, and US is under both, as you already mentioned, under moral and both legal obligations to impress upon the Taliban to fulfill their commitment as per the Doha Accord. Rather, they are funding them, and this particular funding is being used by the Afghan Taliban to perpetrate terrorism. Mr. Syed Akhtar Ali Shah, former Inspector General Police Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, joining us on Skype. Thank you very much for being with us on the show tonight. I really appreciate that. Marshal Khan, before going towards this particular aspect, let me just jump a little backwards and try to understand your perspective regarding as to the proximity of those hotspots bordering with Pakistan. That's why the southern Khyber Pakhtunkhwa has been the target of these heinous acts of terror. And could there be a possibility, if the Afghan Taliban have been unable to take a concrete and decisive action against the Fitna al-Khawarij and the banned Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, could there be a possibility to address the Pakistani authorities' concerns? Those militants or terrorists could be relocated to somewhere else so that they don't pose a threat directly to Pakistan. Is that a possibility?
Tehami, you have actually answered the question yourself, right? First of all, we must understand that talks can only be held between equals. Talks can never be held between a powerful party and a weaker party. Like our friend was highlighting, because we were internally, politically, engaged. So the Afghans thought that this is a right opportunity to attack Pakistan and, create gain some ground over here. Their main reason has been only one, that they want that Fatah and Pata should be brought in again, and they should be given land where they can live as per their beliefs.
Okay.
But Pakistan has already
As per
taken
their
a
beliefs
decision.
or as per their wishes and whims?
The same. It's the same thing. But this is exactly what they want. Now, that cannot be allowed by any sane government. Now, what has happened is that after, if you look at the events of 23rd December, 25th December, 28th December, you would find that they have realized that they cannot fight a proper land battle with Pakistan. Pakistan is a far stronger country than them. And we have no designs of invading Afghanistan or going into their area and taking land for our benefit. All we are asking from them is that please, for God's sake, they are your friends, they are your guests, whatever you consider them, ensure that they do not come into our territory and create mayhem over here.
Right.
Now, after the attack, you know, we have already started receiving news that they have started to shift nearly 250 families from Paktika and host area towards the west of Afghanistan, which means that they are taking the TTP away from the Pakistan border. So this is a very healthy sign. The farther they are, the more difficult it would be for them to create something over here. So yes, I think they are quite, they have read the message loud and clear which was given by the by Pakistan, and yes, they have already started taking.
So what I understand, it is not the Afghan Taliban that they want space for the TTP in Fata and Pata areas, rather they are willing to relocate them to decrease the threat, or rather eliminate the threat that emanates from Fitna al-Khawarij towards Pakistan.
Yes.
Am I correct in understanding that?
Yes.
Mr. Haroon, you already talked of space. Do you agree with this particular point? And do you think a threat would considerably be reduced when TTP would be shifted somewhere farther away from Pakistan's border?
My dear, if I am living in Gujranwala or if I am living in Lahore, there is no difference if I want to attack somewhere in Wazirabad. So for me, this is useless. And if they are doing it well, good enough, because we could have asked for them, but for me, it wouldn't help. My dear, the news scenario is more dangerous than you can think or I can think. Why this money is going to be? You have missed the line of Tim letter.
There's a whole letter. There's a whole letter. If you allow me, I can quote.
I mentioned this line when he said, "You are investing or providing money to Taliban for global terrorism."
In 4 countries primarily.
Exactly. So just imagine what is going on in Syria. Syria has become a nursery or a kindergarten where youth from Central Asian states is there. Uyghur Muslims from Chinese origins are there. They are basically giving them training and rehearsals in Syria. And just imagine one fine morning, they will have planes and land in Kabul. Because Kabul is ready to accommodate, people of their own school of thought from anywhere in the world. So then what would be the position? Look, for me, these are only brand names, what you call TTP or what you call ISIS, or you call Al-Qaeda. They are just brand name. This is a mindset actually. And in Afghanistan, I have seen with my own eyes when Governor Majid flown to Germany. Everybody who was basically before 1 hour before Mujahid, he just changed his turban and he became the Talib. For them, there is nothing impossible. So why America is funding so much huge money to Taliban, I have my doubts, I have fears, I don't want to share over here, but the rehearsal and training is being given to all youth which belongs to China, Central Asia, Central Asian countries, and might be some, people from Iran also. They are training them to land in Afghanistan, and then they will start their game, maybe in March or April.
Oh, where is given
we have to respect his
I
point
take
of
the
view.
responsibility.
But the point is
That's a
that
big statement,
Yes.
Mr. Haroon.
I take my responsibility, I'm saying.
Air Marshal, please.
You see,
how
but,
concerning is this particular?
the development is very
there are
disturbing.
2 or 3 different things. I mean, it's not only one thing. That particular Twitter message by the South African journalist, over which there's a question also raised by Elon Musk, whether are we U.S. citizens really sending U.S. taxpayer money to the Taliban? And then there is Transatlantic Intelligence Consortium report also talking about those $40 million being sent to the Taliban through every week. And this particular letter also saying there's been shipment of cash payments in the United States dollars to Afghanistan's central bank.
So since 2023, we already knew of this thing. We knew of the letter which Congressman Tim had written to the government at that time, and now he has written on 2nd of January again to President-elect Donald Trump. So we were aware that such an activity is taking place. But what has actually come up or become clearer with Elon Musk's message is that yes, what was being feared is actually is the truth, and it is happening. According to certain sources, it is not only this for $40 million. There is something close to like $800 million a year, which the American government is giving to the Emirati Taliban government.
The de facto authorities. That brings us to a question. When the Afghan Taliban took over Kabul, those $7 billion were frozen by the Biden administration, if I am correctly remembering
Yes,
that.
exactly
So
the
if they
same thing.
froze that $7 billion, so why would they give $800 million
Because
of this $40 million a week to the Afghan Taliban?
Because they may have had an understanding with the government in Afghanistan to create disturbance. If we read that report which has been released by the consortium, they have actually highlighted 4 countries. They say that probably unrest would be created in Iran, Pakistan, China, and Russia. Right? So these are also the target countries of America in this region. So if what we are seeing today may very well be a prelude to what is happening, what our friend is telling us in March, April. You know, they are, but I think if you ask me what is the way forward from here to April, like our friend is saying, I would say diplomacy, number 1, and a strong defense of our own country, number 2. There is no way that 2 neighbors can continuously fight and be victors, right? And so we need to keep talking to the Afghan Taliban, put pressure on them through our friends that we have, you know, the friends who can be effective in that region, like the Northern Resistance, the Northern Resistance or Alliance, the Kandharis which are down in the south, and we can make them understand that, you know, if you do this thing, you are going to have your own government in trouble, and you are forcing all the countries of the region to join against you. Think of it that, you know, if Iran, Pakistan, Tajikistan, China, they all attack Afghanistan because they are now becoming a threat to everybody. So what will happen?
Do you think they've been emboldened by that very so-called very bloodless takeover of the presidential palace in Kabul and the hasty withdrawal of the international troops? They don't care much whether 3 or 4 major countries in the region come up and put the boots on the ground.
I don't think so. They are naive enough to do this. I don't think so. I think every person who sits in the seat of power is an intelligent person, and they know their limitations. They know that they can fight, they can do a guerrilla warfare, but they can't fight a war.
Right. So, Mr. Haroon, the same question. If the Biden administration froze those $7 billion, why would it fund the Afghan Taliban this way, like $800 million a year, as Mr. Air Marshal has talked about, and those 40 million every week, as per the report by the Transatlantic Intelligence Consortium.
And 10 million for, Doha office expenditures. And Sarah also claimed that even from this 7 billion, a large chunk of money had been flown away somewhere. Why? This is my question. Why? So if you see the scenario, Al-Qaeda, second in command of Al-Qaeda is meeting every, Western diplomat who is going to meet him and have a shake hand with him in Syria. What for? Why so much change? And why these rehearsals they're going on over there? Why he has giving very important position in his army to the Uyghurs, to Tajiks, to Uzbeks? Why? These are my questions. And these are the questions of Elon Musk also, and Mr. Tim also. Why money is being given to them? For what reason? So that is why, as mentioned by Transatlantic report, there could be something bigger than you can and I can even think or talk. These are my reservations.
So if there is something bigger, that is...
One thing, I remember one thing. Whatever happened in Tajikistan from 91 to almost 99, I think so, the civil war, who was behind that civil war? The Taliban. So they strategize things. They use it as a weapon, the terrorism as a leverage. So these are my observations and my fears, and I have every right to have them.
The very strong statement that you've already given, that timeline of March and April. If we are having the threat of something big happening by that particular time.
This is not me saying. This is the international think tanks are saying.
So what are your
things
recommendations?
Are very rapidly going on.
Well, what are your recommendations? We've seen Pakistan has suffered the big time. It has suffered the huge losses.
My
Being the
observation,
front ally on the war on terror for the last 2 decades. Then we did a marvelous job. Also implemented the National Action Plan, broke the backbone.
Pushed them into one.
Yeah. And now they are hitting Pakistan back again. What are the options? And by that particular time, we've also launched that Resolve to Stability, that operation based on intelligence-based operations. Our valiant sons of soil losing their lives every day in defending the motherland. By that time, in March and April, what could be the strategy?
Look, I'm telling you, this scenario is not the danger for the Pakistan only. We can manage. Alhamdulillah, we did it before. Inshallah, we can do it. You have asked me what is to be done. Iran, China, and Russia should think what could be the situation. And of course, you and me are simply journalists. There are, giants are sitting in their teams. They know what could be happen in future. So while dealing with Taliban, China, Russia, Iran, and we should keep this thing in our mind, that this land must not become a jumping pad for international terrorism. Because if China is dealing independently, okay, goody, my things are going well. If Russia is dealing with them, okay, no problem. They are thinking, listening us at least. So then the situation would be different. We need to have we are all SCO members. We should have a SCO meeting over this issue later or sooner. And we have to have a rat strategy that, terrorism against any country is terrorism against the other country of the member state. So this is what we can do.
Tehami, if I can just reword it in a different way. And that is that our very worthy friend has mentioned Syria a number of times. And I was in Syria from 20 to 22 as an ambassador over there. So, there is always a global war going on between the big powers for hegemony, for control, to ensure that they remain the world powers. But solutions only lie in regional coordination. Like if Syria has to become stable again, it has to find a regional solution. The moment the external factors beyond the region come in, they are going to create instability. So in Afghanistan also, if we need to really, let's say starting from today till March, April time frame, which our worthy friend is giving, I would say that we should put our diplomats, on full movement between Pakistan and Afghanistan. They should be talking, they should be finding us the solutions. And we must also we must talk to the regional countries and the region.
Point well, but my question is that
And
for
if I
2
can just
decades,
complete it. And we need to do a very strong defense of our country from within and of our borders. We cannot allow this instability which is in our country to come to a level where the state of Pakistan is threatened. Because the Afghans are using the instability, political instability in Pakistan to launch their attacks over here. You know, when people die, you may 10 people mourn, but 100 people also get against the sitting government. So that is what we must avoid. We must stop them. We must stop them at the border. We must finish all their hideouts or their launching pads within Pakistan and ensure that TTP does not undertake any activity over here. Now, it's a long and tall asking, but it can be done.
Right. A very quick take regarding the point that you made. The solutions lie in the regional approach. For 2 decades, a foreign power comes with allies, invade a certain country, and we see they leave their weapons over here as well, which are now being used by the terrorist organization against the neighboring countries. So Russia repeatedly has talked at the United Nations Forum that it was because of that particular approach on the part of the United States and its allies that the situation developed as it developed in Afghanistan, the war-ravaged country. So they come and develop that situation over here, and the regional countries have to bear the brunt by coming up with the solutions. I just want you to elaborate a little on that.
You see, if there is instability in Afghanistan or if there is a conflict between Afghanistan and Pakistan, all the regional countries cannot say that we are not affected. China cannot say that I'm affected. Already we are hearing about Wakhan. Tajikistan cannot say that we are not affected. Iran cannot say I'm not affected. So when there is a conflict between Pakistan and Afghanistan, it will spill over to the neighboring countries also. So, and the way I am looking at the news and I'm assessing the situation, I think the regional countries have started to realize to take things in their own hands.
Right. Mr. Haroon, your quick take, then I have to go to a very important question.
One thing, stable. If you see the death toll rate, Afghanistan is much stable than Pakistan.
Yeah.
So they are stable. They don't need. They are there to basically sell or throw instability to other countries. Don't you see any similarity between the fall of Kabul and fall of Damascus? They fell down like the house of cards. So, my dear, you need to have a global perspective to understand this situation.
Right. Can a different approach be expected from the incoming US administration? This particular question, whether the taxpayer money is being funded to the Taliban, raised by Elon Musk, a very close associate nowadays of incoming President Donald Trump. And President Donald Trump he was the one during whose administration the Doha Peace Accord was struck between the Afghan Taliban and the US. Do you think this particular question is going to be taken up seriously by the new incoming administration? But going back to that earlier take that you came up with, the timeline that you gave, the time of March and April, by that time, the new president would have entered the White House. Yeah, but could you shed a little bit of light regarding
There is possibility. There is possibility. But what the deep state is selling now is we are giving money to Taliban to release certain 4 or 5 persons from their, from Taliban. They are hostages there. So that is reason we are very comfortable and we are giving some money to Taliban to please them, so they should release 4 people. So deep state has every justification to sell its ideas to every new government. And we will see this deep state would be successful or Mr. Trump. That is the issue.
with his anti-war narrative. I'm not sure your understanding. Do you expect
I
anything?
hope and wish, Tehami, that President Donald Trump, he stops this funding to Afghanistan so that the Taliban cannot export their, terrorism abroad. Already, we have seen a decline of Afghan position in the eyes of the Americans since 2021. Afghanistan-Pakistan region is no more their area of interest. Their area of interest is Europe as well as Ukraine, where they are seeing, they have almost given a very tough time to Russia, who is their main enemy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think President Donald Trump will not invest this money, and the message by Elon Musk actually shows a mindset. And if he is questioning, then it means that they are not going to support it once they come in government. But we must understand, like a friend has said, that in every country there is an establishment and there is a government. And there is always a tussle between the establishment and the government.
So
the governments keep coming and going. The establishment remains constant.
Take the lead when the new President of the United States of America enters the White House. Mr. Air Marshal, retired Syed Mohammed Khan, senior analyst, joining us in the studio. Thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. And Mr. Agha, Iqrar, Haroon, senior analyst, made quite very strong statements today. But of course, as always, very insightful discussion. Thank you very much for your time also, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. With that, we come to the end of today's episode. Till the next one, take care.